Hi there, I'm Allie, and I work with A2 to B1 English learners who understand the language well but hesitate when it's time to speak. So, if this sounds like your child or if this sounds familiar to you, this video is perfect. So, a lot of parents ask me, Teacher Allie, does watching TV in English, does it actually help my child? And the answer is yes, absolutely, but it depends on how you're using it. So, one of the most effective things I've seen over the years of teaching is rewatching a show that your child already knows very well, but in English. So, it can't be something new, completely brand new. It needs to be something familiar. So, maybe they have a favorite movie like Zootopia or Bad Guys that they've seen many times, right? They know it inside and out. That is the perfect movie. Or if there's a different show that they love, go ahead and find those things that your child loves. And that is what you want them to be practicing in English because they know the context inside and out. So there's a really specific reason this works. So, for example, if a show is completely brand new, your child's brain is busy trying to understand the story. Who's the character? What's happening? Why did that happen? So the brain is trying to solve the story. They're trying to figure it out, right? And it has less energy to notice the language. So for A2 to B1 learners, that can really turn into frustration. And when the story is familiar, right, something changes. Your child's relaxed. They love the show. They're excited. Your child already understands what's happening, which is perfect. They're not confused. And that frees up the mental space to actually notice English. So they start hearing patterns, they recognize phrases, and they're connecting what they already know to new language. So confidence is key, right? It's huge at this stage. So when students feel lost, they shut down. I've completely seen this with some of my students, and it's totally normal. So when they feel capable, though, capable that they can do it, that they're excited, they lean into the challenge. They get excited. They ask me for more challenging things, right? So if they understand, the movie, the TV show that they are watching, they are much more willing to try repeating phrases, mimicking pronunciation, or even pausing and singing along if it's something like Encanto or Coco when they're singing in a musical. So that willingness to try is what really builds confidence in students. Okay, another huge tip for parents. Subtitles matter. So I really want you to be strict with your subtitles. So I recommend using those English subtitles. So not subtitles in their native language. I want you to use English subtitles. So English voiceover and then also English subtitles. So completely in English, no just English voiceover and then your native language. We're not going to do that. Why? Why not? So they are seeing and hearing the language at the same time. And this is crucial. They're working two skills at once. So this strengthens recognition and it helps connect sound to spelling as well. So for A2 learners to B1 learners, this connection is super powerful and it shifts away from that translation from your native language or languages, right? So we want our students to get away from that translation because that can hinder language growth. So seeing it all in English or whatever language you're trying to learn is critical for growth. Awesome. So this we're not passively watching our show or our movie, right? So you don't need to turn it into homework, right? But a great activity for you to do with your child is to pause occasionally and ask, "Hey, what did she just say? Why did he react that way? Can you explain that scene or can you tell me what's happening?" Going ahead and challenging your students or your child's comprehension of, what's happening is a great way to use some simple prompts to turn it into speaking practice, right? So staying in English asking these questions in English with your child, and then going ahead and having your child respond as best they can in English. Awesome way to practice and reinforce comprehension. Awesome. And remember, repetition builds automaticity. So I see this very often where students start rewatching a show and they start to pick up phrases from it naturally, right? They'll say something that they heard and it just flows. It starts to come out very naturally and native like. And this is because repetition builds automaticity. So the language starts to feel familiar instead of foreign, right? So this is something we've covered in many of my videos, right? They need to be repeated, using repeated phrases. It needs to feel comfortable and they need to have that safe space. So repetition really does build more native-like speakers. Awesome. And this strategy works especially well for some of my learners who are more perfectionists, right? They maybe don't like to make mistakes or they're used to getting 100% on exams. So I love to challenge them. And this is perfect because they're not inventing, they're not creating, they're not producing the language, right? They're just working with the language that they've already been exposed to, that they're already heard. So this reduces the fear of being wrong because it's familiar, right? And reduced fear means more output, speaking. Awesome. And here is how I would use this at home. So I want you to pick a child or pick your child's movie or show that they love. So this has to be something that your child or children have seen many times, are very familiar with the plot, the context, etc. And then you're going to change the voiceover to English, and you're also going to put English subtitles on the screen for them. And you could pause once or twice, not every couple minutes, but just a few times throughout the show or the movie. Just ask them some simple questions, just to check for understanding. I want this to feel like a conversation and not like a test. So make sure they're feeling comfortable, you're supporting them, you're encouraging them, right? So you're building comfort speaking in English with your child. And this is a phenomenal activity for the whole family to improve their English. Good. So remember, consistency, consistency, consistency. So you don't need to spend hours of screen time, right? Your child shouldn't be glued to their iPad watching movies in English all day long, right? So this is something I want you to do consistently, right? So it could be 15 or 20 minutes every couple days, right? Every other day. It is really crazy how quickly that growth compounds when you build that habit with your child. And consistency builds familiarity. Familiarity builds comfort. And remember, comfort is the key to confidence. So go ahead. I challenge you as parents or, as teachers to go ahead and find that time where you are practicing often with your child or your students. So this could be, 15 minutes before bed, or when you wake up in the morning, you throw on their favorite show while you're making breakfast or something. But just something that's a consistent habit. My most successful students are the ones who are finding ways to incorporate English outside of the classroom, right? Outside of lesson time with me. So they are finding, maybe their favorite YouTuber that's age appropriate, or just a TV show or music. Whatever is engaging and interesting to your child, go ahead and encourage them and maybe practice that habit with them. Good. And when language feels familiar, students take more risks. So they give slightly longer answers, they borrow phrases, they experiment, they're willing to take that risk with English. And that is how recognition slowly turns into expression. And you start to see that improvement from A2 to B1. Awesome. So if your child enjoys watching movies and shows, use that to their advantage, right? This is a huge way, an awesome way to get them excited to practice English. So it doesn't have to compete with language learning. It can just support it, right? And I would love to know, does your child feel more confident speaking about something that they already know well? And if you've tried this with your students, go ahead, or your children, go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know what shows they're watching and if this has helped them at all. Thank you.